If your money feels stressful, even though you know you're being responsible, then this is for you. So you're not overspending, you're not ignoring your finances. Instead, you're actually paying attention, and somehow this makes it worse instead of better. Then I got you. Because most people assume that money stress means they're doing something wrong, but oftentimes, not all the times, it's the opposite. Because when you're being good with money, you expect it to feel lighter, right? More under control. But instead what can happen is that it feels like this constant low stress level that never really goes away. For example, you're checking your bank account before you're going shopping, or you're second guessing if you can afford something even though you actually know you can afford it. So in other words, you're thinking about money constantly. And here's the thing, the stress is not coming from what you're doing wrong, it's coming from the fact that you keep thinking about it, because constant attention creates constant stress. So the stress does not come from a lack of discipline. It comes from the sheer number of decisions you're making about money every single day. In fact, think about this for a second. How many times do you think about money in a given week? Should I buy this? Can I afford this? Did I pay that bill? Is my balance okay? Should I transfer money? Is that a good deal? Each of those decisions seems very small, but they stack. And your brain does not make the distinction between this is a big decision and this is a small decision. It just knows it has to make a decision, and that is constantly. So for most people, when it comes to money, it's not this one big stressful thing. It's 32 small decisions every day that you never get a break from. And that's what is exhausting. So not because you're doing it all wrong, but because you're doing it all. So money feels stressful when you have to make too many decisions about it. And here's the thing, your brain has a limited capacity of making decisions every day. And money decisions compete with all the other decisions that you have to make. So those are life decisions. What do I eat? What do I wear? How do I get to work? Those are work decisions. So all the little decisions you have to make at work every day. And by the time you get to that question, should I buy that coffee? You're already tired. Okay, it's not necessarily about the coffee, it's just such a classic. But what I'm trying to say here is that at some point, your brain just goes like, ah, come on. Do you know what I mean? And by the way, there's actually research about this. It's called decision fatigue. So the more decisions you make, the worse each one gets, especially towards the evening, which might be one of the reasons you're choosing less healthy foods in the evening, and which is also the reason why we should make important decisions rather in the morning. Because, you're still thinking clear and you have more cognitive capacity. So this totally explains why you're more stressed at the end of the day and why you're also making maybe worse money decisions at the end of the day, and when you're tired, and why thinking about money feels harder than it should. Okay, so the problem is not that you're bad at deciding. The problem is that you're deciding too often. Let me give you some examples to make this more tangible. Let's say you're at the grocery store. So you're at the store, you're picking something up, you look at the price, you do a quick math. Am I willing to spend on that? Did I already spend too much this week? Should I get the cheaper version? Is this worth it? Do I even need it? So that's 4 or 5 micro decisions for one item. Now multiply that by 20 items. That's 80 to 100 tiny little decisions just in one go, in one trip to the grocery store. And that is just groceries. You haven't gotten to bills or whether you're going out this weekend and what you're going to do. Another example would be money in the background, almost like an open tab. You're at work, but in the back of your mind you're tracking. Did that payment go through? Do I have enough money for the next trip? Should I move money between accounts? When is my credit card due? Or maybe you're checking your banking app 3 times a day. Not because you think there's something wrong, just to make sure, just to check. But then each check is a decision. Pulling out your phone, opening the app, looking at the balance and evaluate if it's okay. Now all of that is decision-making energy. Or another example, when every purchase becomes a question. Someone asks you if you want to grab lunch. And before you answer, you're thinking, how much will it cost? Am I willing to spend that? Should I say yes? What did I already spend on today? So again, this is not one decision, that's 4 or 5. And it happens every time someone suggests something that costs money. And by the end of the week, you've made hundreds and hundreds of micro decisions about money. I mean, no wonder it feels exhausting. Okay, so I'm not saying never think about money again. I'm also not saying build this rigid system. So this is not about removing all the choice. That wouldn't be possible anyway, because there will always be money decisions. But what it is about is reducing the number of decisions you're making about money every day. And just try to turn these repeated decisions into a one-time decision as often as possible, right? So instead of deciding whether to save every month and how much, decide once and then automate it. Instead of remembering every bill, again, set it up once and then forget about it, especially the ones that are recurring. Instead of calculating whether you can afford something, decide your limits once and then spend within them. For example, if you know you don't want to go to lunch more than, let's say, 8 times per month, then just keep those in mind. And the other times you're saying, no, not today, I'm good, thank you, right? Okay, so you do not have to eliminate every decision. For now, just pick one thing that you realize throughout the video that you're deciding over it, again and again, and then find a way to make it happen once instead of every single time. Because every decision you remove is energy that you're getting back. And that adds up faster than you think. So if money feels stressful, even though you're doing everything right, that does not mean you're failing. That's very important. It just means that it hasn't been set up to support you yet. And that's totally fixable. Not with more effort, but with less thinking. All right, hope you got some value out of this. Thank you for watching if you're still here. And I see you in the next video. Bye-bye.